Phakamile Majola on Salam Media for the very last segment of the show, where we're just going to take a quick dip into international affairs. Right now, we're actually looking at the fact that the US military is preparing to strike Iran as early as this weekend, according to media reports. But it is alleged that Trump has yet to make the final call. And to tell us more about this is Dr. Oscar van Heerden, who is the Senior Research Fellow at the Center for African Diplomacy and Leadership at UJ. Good morning, Dr. van Heerden. Thank you so much for joining the show. Dr. van Heerden, can you hear me? Okay, I seem to be having minor technical issues because I can tell that Dr. van Heerden is speaking, but I cannot hear him. So our team is quickly correcting that for me as we speak. So while they are quickly doing that, I think I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of what this issue is. Basically, the US military is preparing to strike Iran as early as this weekend, according to reports on CNN and CBS. They are claiming that President Donald Trump has yet to make the final decision on whether he will authorize such actions. And according to CNN, the White House has been briefed that the military could be ready for an attack by the weekend after they've been building up their military in the last couple of days. I don't know if the Salam Media listeners have noticed that there have been reports coming out that the US, for example, has actually been bringing their ships ever closer to Iran, and people are saying that it was in preparation for this attack. It seems we have Dr. van Heerden on the line. Can you hear me now, sir?
I can, Phakamile. I don't know what happened there.
So sorry about that. We do apologize. Can you kindly take us through the latest events regarding US and Iran relations? Can we expect military intervention over the weekend from the US?
Well, I mean, I think there's two things we should take stock of, Phakamile, which is the one, this latest military maneuvers and so forth could potentially be pressure that the Trump administration is bringing to bear on the negotiations. Remember, Iran and the USA is currently in negotiations. Teams are meeting to try and find some kind of an agreement, particularly around the nuclear uranium enrichment program of the Iranians. Now, as you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu, the war criminal, flew to Washington, D.C. to try and influence President Trump to put a number of other issues also on the negotiating table around ballistic missiles, around the funding and proxies of Hamas and Hezbollah and the Yemenis and so forth, the Hutus and so forth. And we believe that Trump indicated that that is not a priority for them for now. The priority is to talk about the nuclear weapons program. Now, as I say, what we are beginning to see now is there's more military personnel and so forth being sent to the Gulf. And that could be, as I say, one of two things: to try and indicate that we are prepared for military action if you don't agree to the issues on the table, or that they are indeed preparing for an imminent attack on Iran. So let's talk about the first one. The first one, Iran has made it very clear they are only talking about the nuclear issue and the lifting of sanctions. They are not prepared to engage in any other conversation because, as far as the Islamic State is concerned, their safety and their sovereignty is guaranteed by their defense systems, their missiles, their ballistic missiles, and so forth. So they're not going to compromise on that one. And then secondly, if indeed it is a military attack, then I think it is the gravest mistake that the Trump administration is going to make for two reasons. One, it is going to plunge that part of the world into complete chaos, US military bases, but also complicit governments, whether it is the Emiratis, whether it is the and so on and so forth. The Iran has indicated that they will respond as if this is an existential threat, and they are going to deal with anyone and everyone that is complicit with this attack. And then, of course, they also made it clear that they will attack Israel. Now, with regards to Israel, if we look at what happened with the 12-day war, we saw that the defenses, the air defenses of Israel, was not
Were
coping
weak.
with the assault.
That is true. And in fact, I want us just to touch on very quickly, very finally, because unfortunately we are running out of time. But given that there is this big buildup, given that Iran has made it very clear that they are not going to surrender on issues regarding their own defense and their own sovereignty as a nation, how do you see this playing out? Who are the likely, and here I'm thinking of Russia and China, who are the likely players to support and to defend, to come to Iran's defense? Because if they proceed with this, are we not likely to see this sort of really expand beyond just sort of a skirmish of what we saw last year? I'm not saying last year was a skirmish, but it would be tiny compared to what you are describing in terms of what could happen potentially if the US was to proceed.
That indeed is the big geostrategic question. We saw, for example, how Russia is dealing with the Ukraine matter. We see, for example, how China responded or did not respond to the Venezuela issue. And so we'll have to, the big question mark is, we know, for example, since the 12-day war, both Russia and China has given additional capacity to the Iranians in terms of air defenses, additional weaponry, additional intelligence, and so on and so forth. And perhaps that suggests that when there is ultimately a conflict, Iran will have to do it alone with those assistance that they received. But I suspect that the Russians and the Chinese, because they've seen how they can negatively be affected because of Venezuela and so forth, and the Ukrainian war, they might want to get involved physically. They might want to send ships to the Persian Gulf. They might want to aid and abet Iran in its defense. And I think then we are looking at a much wider conflict.
Oh, that is definitely food for thought and is likely to give some of us high levels of anxiety as we go about our day. Dr. Van Heerden, thank you for your time. We really appreciate your insights, and we would definitely love to reach out to you again for further engagement on this, because I do think that this is the big story of the week that we need to watch to see how this plays out. Thank you once again for your time, sir.
Always a pleasure.
All right. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, this has been my show. Pagamile Majola has been hosting Salam Media today, and it has been an absolute pleasure. I'm truly honored and blessed for the fact that you've given me this opportunity. I want to thank you once again. Please stay on the show. There's a lot of content coming. We will see each other or hear each other tomorrow again. And of course, I want to wish you a wonderful, blessed, and peaceful Ramadan Kareem.